Casinos have one of the best business models ever invented. Customers willingly hand you money, thank you for the experience, then come back next weekend to do it again. At least, that's the dream. Because owning a casino isn't about watching chips pile up. It's about running one of the most heavily regulated, capital-intensive, and operationally complex businesses on Earth. So, you want to own a casino. From the outside, it almost looks unfair. Every game gives the house an advantage. Every spin, every hand, every roll of the dice has mathematics quietly working in your favor. Thousands of people arrive every day hoping luck is on their side. And even when someone walks away with a jackpot, the casino keeps its doors open, ready for the next customer. It sounds like the closest thing to a guaranteed fortune. If that were true, casinos would be everywhere. Instead, there are surprisingly few of them, and buying one is about as easy as buying an international airport. The reason is simple. A casino isn't just a business. It's one of the few businesses where governments care almost as much about who owns it as how much money it makes. Before we get to that, let's look at what you're actually buying. Most people picture rows of slot machines, poker tables, roulette wheels, and dealers in tuxedos. That's certainly part of it. But the gaming floor is only one department in a much larger operation. A modern casino is really a collection of businesses sharing the same roof. There's the hotel, the restaurants, the bars, the theater, the convention center, the gift shops, the spa, the parking garage, the surveillance department, the security team, the accountants, the marketing department, the IT staff, the cleaners, the engineers who keep everything running 24 hours a day. A large casino resort functions less like a single business and more like a small city with thousands of residents who all leave before breakfast. And unlike most cities, every square foot has one job: generate revenue. That philosophy influences almost everything. Walk through a casino and you'll notice something strange. There aren't many straight lines. You'll rarely see clocks hanging over the gaming floor. Windows are often limited or completely absent. Moving from your hotel room to dinner usually means walking past slot machines. Heading to a concert? More slot machines. Looking for the washroom? You'll probably pass a blackjack table on the way. None of this happens by accident. Casinos are carefully designed to maximize opportunity. Not opportunity for you, opportunity for you to spend money. Congratulations! You now own one of the few businesses where customers accidentally wandering around is considered a successful design feature. Of course, not every casino looks like a Las Vegas mega resort. Some regional casinos have only a few hundred slot machines, a handful of table games, and a modest restaurant. Others resemble luxury vacation destinations with thousands of hotel rooms, celebrity chef restaurants, shopping malls, golf courses, arenas, and convention centers that host events even when nobody plans to gamble. The bigger the property becomes, the less dependent it is on gambling alone. In fact, many guests spend an entire weekend at a casino without placing a single bet. Which brings us to another surprise. Who actually owns these places? If you guessed billionaires, you're only partly right. While there are famous casino owners throughout history, most major casinos today belong to publicly traded corporations, investment groups, real estate investment trusts, or tribal governments. Even then, ownership can become surprisingly complicated. The company operating the casino may lease the land. Another company might own the hotel. A separate trust could own the buildings. The casino operator pays rent while managing the gaming business. On paper, one casino can involve several different owners before the first customer even walks through the front door. And then there's the price. If you're imagining buying a neighborhood casino for the cost of a shopping plaza, prepare to be disappointed. Even a relatively small regional casino can cost tens of millions of dollars. Larger established properties often sell for hundreds of millions. The biggest integrated casino resorts can cost several billion dollars to build from the ground up. That's before hiring a single employee, before buying a single slot machine, before dealing the first hand of blackjack, and before earning your first dollar. If you thought the purchase price was the hard part, you're about to discover it's only the admission fee. If you have enough money, buying a casino should be straightforward. Find one for sale, negotiate a price, sign the paperwork, and collect the profits. That's how buying most businesses works. Casinos are different. Long before anyone asks whether you can afford the purchase, they'll want to know who you are. Your finances will be scrutinized, your business history will be examined, your tax records, investments, business partners, and sometimes even your family connections may all come under review. Regulators need to know exactly where your money came from and whether you're fit to hold a gaming license. It's one of the few industries where a government can simply decide you're not the right person to own the business, even if you have the money. That process can take months, in some cases more than a year. Congratulations, you haven't won a single hand yet, and you've already had one of the most invasive background checks of your life. Of course, if you're buying an existing casino, there's another obstacle. Someone has to be willing to sell. The world's best casinos rarely hit the market because they're valuable, profitable, and incredibly difficult to replace. When ownership does change, it's often between large corporations or investment groups rather than private buyers. Starting from scratch isn't much easier. First, you need approval to build, then a gaming license, then environmental permits, construction financing, insurance, vendor agreements, security systems that meet strict regulatory standards, surveillance rooms capable of monitoring virtually every gaming table and cash handling area. Before the first customer walks through the door, millions of dollars have already been spent making sure every dollar that arrives afterward can be tracked. Which raises an obvious question. If casinos spend this much money just opening, how do they make it back? Most people assume the answer is gambling. They're only partly right. The gaming floor is the engine of the business, but not every game contributes equally. Slot machines are usually the biggest source of gaming revenue, not poker, not blackjack, not roulette. Rows and rows of machines quietly collecting small amounts of money from thousands of players every day. They're relatively inexpensive to operate, require very little staffing, and never call in sick. Table games are different. Every blackjack dealer, roulette dealer, craps crew, and baccarat pit requires trained employees. The games move more slowly, labor costs are higher, and skilled players can occasionally reduce the house advantage. Poker is stranger still. In many casinos, players aren't actually gambling against the casino, they're gambling against each other. The casino simply takes a small percentage of each pot or charges tournament entry fees for providing the tables, dealers, and facilities. It's less like being the bank and more like owning the stadium where everyone else is playing. Then there are sportsbooks. Contrary to popular belief, sportsbooks often operate on surprisingly thin margins. Their goal isn't to predict every outcome perfectly. It's to balance betting on both sides while earning a commission regardless of who wins. Some weekends go exactly as planned. Other weekends, every favorite wins and millions of dollars disappear almost overnight. Fortunately, the casino isn't relying on a single revenue stream. Remember the hotel? Those rooms generate income whether guests gamble or not. The restaurants, the bars, the concerts, convention bookings, retail stores, parking, spa services, golf courses. Every one of them exists for two reasons: to make money directly and to encourage guests to stay just a little longer. Because the longer someone remains on the property, the more opportunities there are to spend money somewhere else. That's why casinos are willing to give away things that seem expensive: free hotel rooms, complimentary dinners, show tickets, airport transportation, even private jets for their highest spending guests. It isn't generosity, it's marketing backed by mathematics. If historical data suggests a guest typically loses $50,000 over a weekend, spending $2,000 on luxury perks isn't a gift, it's an investment. The casino knows something the guest doesn't. On average, they'll probably earn far more than they spend. The house doesn't need to win every visit. It just needs the averages to keep working over thousands of visits. And that's the real secret. Casinos don't build fortunes by chasing jackpots. They build fortunes by understanding probability better than almost anyone else. By now, owning a casino probably sounds like a remarkably efficient way to make money. Now it's time to start paying the bills, because casinos are expensive, not just to build, to operate. A casino never really closes. The lights stay on, the surveillance cameras keep recording, the slot machines keep humming. The security staff keeps watching. The air conditioning keeps running. Even at 3 o'clock in the morning, someone is cleaning carpets, repairing machines, counting cash, preparing restaurants for breakfast, or monitoring hundreds of cameras from a surveillance room most guests never even know exists. Every hour the building is open, people are getting paid. And there are a lot of people. Large casino resorts can employ several thousand workers, dealers, bartenders, hotel staff, housekeeping, valets, chefs, servers, maintenance technicians, electricians, IT specialists, marketing teams, finance departments, security officers, surveillance operators, human resources, event coordinators, landscapers. The list goes on. It's less like managing a restaurant and more like running a small town with its own economy. Then there's the equipment. A single slot machine can cost anywhere from several $1,000s to well over $20,000. A large casino may have thousands of them. Gaming tables need constant maintenance. Cards and dice are replaced regularly for security reasons. Furniture wears out. Carpets are replaced far more often than you'd expect. After all, millions of people walk across them every year. And then there's technology. Every transaction must be recorded, every chip tracked, every jackpot verified, every suspicious pattern investigated. Modern casinos use sophisticated software to monitor games, detect cheating, identify unusual betting behavior, and comply with strict reporting requirements. Because casinos don't just compete with other casinos, they also spend enormous resources protecting themselves from fraud. People have attempted to cheat casinos in almost every way imaginable. Marked cards, loaded dice, counterfeit chips, hidden computers, collusion between players and dealers, sophisticated scams involving organized crime. Most fail, not because people stopped trying, because casinos became exceptionally good at catching them. The surveillance department has earned a nickname over the years, the Eye in the Sky. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of cameras quietly watch nearly every corner of the property. Someone is always watching. And unlike the movies, they're usually far more interested in accounting errors than dramatic poker bluffs. Of course, cheating isn't the only risk. Economic downturns can reduce tourism almost overnight. New competitors can open nearby. Governments can change gaming regulations. Tax rates can increase. Smoking laws can change customer behavior. A global event can suddenly empty every hotel room on the property. When your business depends on people choosing entertainment over staying home, uncertainty becomes part of the job. Ironically, one of the biggest misconceptions about casinos is that they make unlimited money. Many do generate enormous profits. Others struggle under massive debt from construction costs. Building a billion-dollar resort only works if enough people keep showing up. If they don't, those impressive buildings become very expensive reminders that even the house can lose. So, could you realistically own one? For most people, probably not. At least, not in the way you're imagining. Buying a major casino resort requires extraordinary amounts of capital, years of regulatory approval, and an operational team capable of managing one of the most complex hospitality businesses in the world. That doesn't mean you can't own a piece of the industry. Millions of people already do, through publicly traded casino companies and real estate investment trusts. They share in the industry's success without worrying about surveillance systems, gaming licenses, or whether the roulette wheel needs replacing before Friday night. Owning the whole thing is another story. Because despite the flashing lights and glamorous image, casinos aren't really in the gambling business. They're in the business of managing risk. Every game, every guest, every employee, every dollar, every decision. The cards, chips, and roulette wheels are simply the tools. The real product is trust. Trust that the games are fair. Trust that payouts will be honored. Trust that the building is safe. Trust from regulators, lenders, investors, employees, and millions of guests who choose to walk through the doors every year. Lose that trust, and the house advantage disappears surprisingly quickly. So, would you want to own a casino? If you're looking for an easy fortune, probably not. If you're prepared to invest hundreds of millions of dollars, navigate years of regulation, employ thousands of people, and operate a business that never sleeps, then congratulations. You don't just own a casino. You own one of the most fascinating businesses on Earth.